Hello guys and welcome to my first video of my new channel. Hope you enjoy. This channel is called Anya Reads. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the video and make sure you hit that bell so you will not miss any videos. Enjoy. Today we are reading The Dolphins of Laurentum by Caroline Lawrence. Enjoy. Scroll 1. Lupus was drumming. He sat on the wooden floor of a small bedroom and played his goatskin drum. One beat with his right hand, another with his left. His eyes were closed, but in his head he clearly saw the pattern he was making. The hits were small black pebbles, the no-hits were white pebbles. He played the pattern, built up the white and black pebbles, and then entwined them in a plait, just like the black and white mosaic chips in the floor and the trilichium downstairs. When he wove drum patterns, it drove everything else from his mind, and that was good. The mosaic rhythm lifted him up and carried him along. He was only aware of the ache in his forearms and the tingling in the tips of his fingers, and the pattern unwinding in his head. Lupus! The voice had been calling him for some time now. He opened his eyes. Jonathan was sitting on his low bed, turning a Syrian barbiton. Enough warm-up, said his friend with a grin. Let's play. Lupus nodded and looked at Jonathan hard. Sometimes when he'd been drumming, it was as if he'd been dreaming, and when he stopped, it was like coming out of a trance. Everything was different. His friend Jonathan looked strange. Maybe it was because Jonathan's hair, once thick and curly, was now shorn to a soft, dark stubble. Maybe it was because he'd lost weight. And his dark eyes looked huge in his face. Maybe it was because the brand on his left shoulder was still red and swollen. Jonathan Ben Mordecai had recently turned 11. He seemed older than his age. Lupus felt older than his own 8.5 years too. He hadn't felt like a child since his tongue had been cut out. Lupus watched Jonathan settle the smooth wooden bulb on the instrument between his bare feet and support the long neck with his hands, one over, one under. He heard the deep note as Jonathan began to thumb the fatter string. The sound was sweet and round. It needed a drum beat that sounded not like pebbles but like something softer, rounder, more muted. Lupus picked up the new drumstick he'd found at Flavia's. He gave the drum an experimental tap and nodded in satisfaction at the sound. Perfect! He found the beat and started to weave a new pattern, holding his drumstick in his right hand and using the palm of his left. Lupus! Jonathan was staring at him in horror. Lupus stopped drumming and gave Jonathan his bug-eyed look. What on earth are you using as a drumstick? Lupus held up the sponge stick and shrugged, as if to say, It's a sponge stick. Where did you get it? Lupus tilted his head towards Flavia's house next door. Lupus, do you know what this means? I mean, what is it used for? Lupus shook his head. Jonathan sighed. I know you used to be half-wild beggar boy, he said, but you've been living with us for nearly 4 months now. We're practically a civilized Roman. You're sure you don't know what the sponge stick is used for? Lupus shook his head again and frowned. Jonathan leaned forward and grinned. It's for whipping your bottom after you've been to the latrine. Flavia, bellowed a voice from the latrine. Where's the sponge stick? Flavia Gemina looked at her ex-slave girl Nubia. They shrugged at one another, got up and went out of their bedroom onto the balcony. I don't know, Uncle Gaius, Flavia yelled down to the sunny courtyard garden. Isn't it there in the beaker of vinegar? No, came a grumpy voice from the latrine. Flavia leaned further over the polished rail and called out, Do you want me to grab you some leaves from the fig tree? I'll do it, said Alma the cook, coming into view. She peered up at the two girls suspiciously. You aren't wearing eyeliner, are you? No. Flavia hastily pulled Nubia back into their room. Not only were they wearing kohl round their eyes, but they had done up their hair and put on the jewellery they owned. They were trying on their outfits for Miriam's betrothal supper, although the date had still not been set. Nubia was wearing a peach shift over a lemon yellow tunic. Flavia, she said slowly, as she brushed her finger against the wine dregs at the bottom of an empty wine cup. What is a brothel supper? Flavia was smoothing her own grey silk shift over the sky blue tunic and admiring the combination. Well, it's unusually when the parents arrange the marriage of a man and a girl. There's a celebration banquet and the man holds the girl's hands in front of everyone and then he gives her a ring. After that, they set the date for the wedding. Alma told me the wedding might be a week later, or a month later, or even 10 years later. If the couple are very young when they're betrothed, sometimes the girl is younger than we are. Flavia sat beside a small oak table on a folding stool. Nubia sat on a smaller stool, facing the former mistress. Do you think Miriam and Gaius will wait a year or two later? Nubia leaned forward and brushed her fingers lightly over Flavia's cheekbone. I don't think so. First, because of the volcano. Aristo says it reminded everyone that they won't live forever. And second, because they're passionately in love. Alma says it's a bad omen. The volcano? No, that they're in love. She says marrying for love is always a bad idea. Flavia peered into a highly polished silver mirror. No, that's too dark. Brush a bit off. Nubia thumped the wine dregs off Flavia's cheeks, leaving just a hint of a blush. That's better, said Flavia, and stroked some of the powdered wine into Nubia's cheekbone. Then she leaned back on the stool and narrowed her eyes. No, your skin's too dark, it doesn't show up, said Flavia. She sat forward again. Where you grew up. Do the parents choose your husband, or do you? She asked. Nubia covered a smile with her hand. We choose, and our parents say yes or no. Now do my mouth, said Flavia, pushing her lips out. Oh, very nice, came a voice from underneath Flavia's bed. Jonathan! Flavia squealed, and the silver mirror shattered to the floor. How long have you been under there? Jonathan wriggled from out underneath the bed and grinned at her. His nutmeg-coloured tunic was grey with fluff, and there was brick dust in the stubble on his cropped hair. You need to remind Alma to dust under the beds, he remarked, standing up and brushing off the dust balls. Stop, cried Flavia. You'll get your clothes dirty. Jonathan ignored Flavia. Come on, Lupus, he said. You can come out now. Lupus is under there too? Flavia and Nubia exchanged horrified glances. Flavia stood up and folded her arms. Have you two been spying on us? We finished lessons over an hour ago. How long have you been under there? She repeated. Not long. Jonathan helped Lupus to his feet. Lupus grinned at them. He was wearing his favourite sea-green tunic and had slicked his hair back from his forehead and Laura-scented oil. Because Lupus couldn't speak, he always carried a wax tablet with him. Now he opened this tablet with a flourish and thrust into the girls' faces. Surprise! With his other hand, he held out the spine stick. Where did you find that? Cried Flavia. And how did you... Shh, says Jonathan. We don't want anyone else to know about our secret entrance. You mean you came in through the wall? Flavia's grey eye widened. Jonathan nodded. My bedroom is right next to yours. Whenever I can't sleep, I pick up the plaster. I haven't been sleeping very well since we got back from Rome, and I've picked up quite a bit. Lupus and I spent all day yesterday getting the motor out from between the bricks. We've made our way through. Jonathan, how exciting! Let's not tell anybody else, Flavia breathed. Not even your father or Miriam. That's why I've been telling you to be quiet. Jonathan rolled his eyes. Flavia sucked a loose strand of her light brown hair. Thoughtfully, we'll have to think of a secret signal for when we want to come through. How about 3 taps on the wall? Jonathan shook his head. Everyone knows 3 times. He said, how about 4? One for each of us. Excellent idea, said Flavia. Lupus gave them a thumbs up. At that moment, they all heard foreign distant raps at the front door of the house. The friends looked at each other wide-eyed. You two stay out here, out of sight, said Flavia. She and Nubia rushed back to the balcony and peered down at the garden. Flavia's Uncle Gaius was standing by the fountain, washing his hands. As he shook the drops from his fingers and turned towards the entrance of the house, Kudux the door slave staggered into the garden, half carrying and half supporting a beggar. The man wore a tattered tunic and had bandages instead of sandals on his feet. His legs were covered with red sores. His hair was matted and his beard ragged. The beggar was tall but painfully thin. From her vantage point, put on the balcony above, Flavia couldn't make out his expression, but it looked as though he was drunk. Kudux, she scolded, staring downstairs. What on earth are you doing? You can't just let any. Anna screamed. Great Jupiter's eyebrows, explained Gaius, and rushed forward to help Kudux. Scotto was sniffing at the beggar's legs and wagging his tail. All lost, the stranger croaked. Ship sunk and everything lost. As Flavia reached the bottom step, he lifted his head and looked at her. His eyes above the peeling, sunburned cheeks were the same grey-blue as hers, and already tears were filling them. Peter! Flavia gripped the railing on her hand. Peter, is that you? Yes, my little owl, said the sea captain Marcus Flavius Geminus. Then he collapsed. So that's scroll 1. If you found that very interesting, then be sure to subscribe to my channel and like the video because I will definitely read more. I haven't really read this book myself, but it's really becoming great. There is more to this series, or quite a lot more to the series. I'll count them and I'll tell you how much there are in 1 minute. 17. So we've got the 5th one here. So not the first one, but the 5th one, so it doesn't really say anything. But I'll read you the blurb, just so you can interest again. Styrian adventures for young detectives in ancient Roman times. Flavia learns the family are in danger of losing everything they own. When the 4 friends find a sunken wreck full of treasure, which seems like the answer to their problems. But someone else is after the hoard too. As their friends try to recover the treasure, can they solve the terrible mystery of Lupus' past? So Lupus is the one with his tail. And at the end, I'm going to do recommendations for another mysterious random book I'm reading. So Secrets of a Sun King right here, I'm reading right now. I studied this book in year 5, and I find it really amazing how it's just based on Egyptian by Emma Carroll, a well-known famous author. I've just gone to part 5 and it's so good. I really do recommend any Emma Carroll books and Secrets of a Sun King. You can get this in the charity or your local bookstore as well as Amazon. Thank you for watching. Be sure to subscribe and like the video. Don't forget to hit the bell and make it ring ding ding. So see you next time. Goodbye.